Yes, sir. Here comes the best in the world heavyweight champion, CM Punk.
December 30th, 2025, and CM Punk's championship dreams just got crushed, literally under 330 pounds of pure Australian destruction named Bronson Reed. The wrestling world is in complete chaos right now trying to process what just happened on Raw. CM Punk, the man who lost the World Heavyweight Championship to Bron Breakker through Tyler Black's interference, who's been positioning himself as the mastermind orchestrator behind weeks of controversial finishes, who's been inserting himself into every major storyline with that knowing smile suggesting he's 10 steps ahead of everyone, just got absolutely annihilated by Bronson Reed in a championship match that wasn't even supposed to happen. And the way Punk lost, the complete physical domination Reed displayed, the sheer brutality of the finishing sequence, creates footage so visceral that it makes you wonder if WWE just sacrificed one of their biggest stars' credibility to create a monster heel that nobody saw coming. Here's the question burning through your brain right now. How did Bronson Reed, a talented but mid-card position performer who's been used primarily to make other people look good, suddenly become World Heavyweight Champion by destroying CM Punk so completely that Punk had to be stretchered out? The answer reveals WWE's current creative philosophy in all its chaotic glory, and whether you think it's brilliant or catastrophic depends entirely on whether you believe unpredictability matters more than careful star building. But one thing's certain, what we just witnessed wasn't standard championship storytelling. This was a statement that in 2025 WWE, anyone can become champion on any night, and the established hierarchy means absolutely nothing when chaos is the only consistent booking philosophy. The match wasn't scheduled until 2 hours before Raw went on air. Adam Pearce appeared during the opening segment looking harried, stressed, like someone who'd been making impossible decisions under pressure all day. Due to circumstances beyond our control, Pearce began with unusual candor about backstage chaos. Bron Breakker is unable to defend the World Heavyweight Championship tonight. Medical staff have advised that he needs additional time to recover from the accumulated damage of recent matches, particularly his wars with Roman Reigns. However, WWE management has determined that Raw will feature a World Heavyweight Championship match tonight. CM Punk, who never received his contractually guaranteed rematch after losing the title, will face the number one contender as determined by a match earlier today. That contender is Bronson Reed. The announcement generated mixed reactions, intrigue about Punk potentially regaining the championship he felt was stolen from him, but skepticism about Bronson Reed being positioned as legitimate threat to someone of Punk's caliber and experience. Reed's been impressive in his Raw appearances, has the look and physical presence of a dominant monster, but hasn't been built up through months of dominant booking as an unstoppable force. This felt like WWE throwing names together for a championship match without proper build-up, which should have resulted in predictable Punk victory that re-established him as champion heading into Royal Rumble. That's not what happened. Not even close. CM Punk entered first, and the confidence radiating from him suggested someone who viewed this as formality rather than genuine challenge. Punk's been positioning himself as the smartest person in WWE, the puppet master pulling strings while everyone else dances to his manipulations. Tonight was supposed to be his coronation, his return to championship status after the injustice of Tyler Black's interference and Bron Breakker's tainted reign. Punk grabbed a microphone before the match even started, unable to resist cutting a promo that revealed exactly how he viewed this situation. Bronson Reed, I respect your ability and your presence, but let's be honest about what this is. This is WWE management handing me back the championship that was stolen from me by Paul Heyman's manipulation and Tyler Black's family dysfunction. You're just the vehicle for that correction, and I genuinely hope you understand this isn't personal. After I win tonight, after I'm World Heavyweight Champion again heading into Royal Rumble, I promise I'll give you a proper title shot with actual build-up and respect. But tonight? Tonight is about justice, about me reclaiming what's mine, about Bronson Reed's music hit, cutting off Punk's monologue, and the Australian monster walked to the ring with expressions suggesting he'd heard every word and taken significant exception to being called a vehicle for Punk's championship redemption. Reed is massive, 6 feet 1 inch and 330 pounds, but carrying that weight with surprising agility and athleticism. He entered the ring and stood face to face with Punk, the size difference immediately apparent, Reed towering over Punk in ways that made the power dynamic visually obvious even before the match started. Reed grabbed Punk's microphone, his voice carrying accent and intensity that made every word land with weight. "I'm nobody's vehicle, Punk. I'm nobody's stepping stone. You think you're the smartest guy in WWE, think you've been orchestrating chaos while everyone else is too stupid to see your manipulations? Maybe that's true. Maybe you have been pulling strings and creating controversies. But here's what you didn't account for, mate. Sometimes the biggest threat isn't the mastermind with the elaborate plan. Sometimes it's just a very large, very angry man who's tired of being overlooked and is about to take everything you think you're entitled to." The statement was delivered with conviction that made it clear Reed wasn't just cutting a promo, he genuinely believed he was winning this championship, and Punk's dismissive attitude had just made this personal in ways that went beyond scripted storyline. The bell rang and Punk, showing veteran intelligence, immediately tried to use speed and technique to offset Reed's size advantage. Quick strikes targeting Reed's legs, attempting to take away his base and mobility. Reed absorbed the offense, not selling it or showing the damage Punk expected, just walking through strikes that would stagger most opponents. The visual was striking, Punk hitting Reed with everything he had and Reed simply shrugging it off like annoying gnats rather than legitimate offense. Reed caught Punk mid-strike and executed a massive powerbomb that planted Punk in the center of the ring with impact that generated an audible gasp from the crowd. This wasn't worked wrestling power move. This was legitimate power being displayed, Reed demonstrating he could ragdoll Punk whenever he wanted. Reed covered immediately, hooking both legs. 1, 2. Punk kicked out, but the near fall was surprisingly close for just a few minutes into the match, suggesting this wasn't going to be the extended technical showcase Punk had presumably expected. Punk regrouped on the outside, visibly reassessing his strategy, understanding that his usual approach wasn't going to work against someone who could simply overpower him. He re-entered carefully, tried to engage Reed in a lockup, and got launched across the ring like he weighed nothing. The crowd was starting to buzz, sensing that something unexpected was developing, that Bronson Reed wasn't just giving Punk a competitive match, but was actually dominating him. Around the 8-minute mark, Punk attempted his signature GTS, the move that's ended countless matches and defined his finishing arsenal for years. He got Reed in position, struggled to lift the 330-pound monster, finally got him up and Reed blocked it, landing on his feet, and immediately responded with a short-arm clothesline that turned Punk inside out. The counter was devastating both physically and psychologically, suggesting that Punk's signature offense was ineffective against Reed's size and power. What followed was systematic destruction that made uncomfortable viewing for anyone who values CM Punk's star power and legacy. Reed wasn't just winning, he was embarrassing Punk, making one of WWE's most cerebral and dangerous performers look helpless against superior physical attributes. The running senton that crushed Punk's ribs. The tsunami splash from the second rope that had Punk writhing in genuine pain. The repeated power slams that accumulated damage with each execution. Punk tried desperately to mount comebacks, landing strikes when opportunities presented, but every bit of offense he managed was immediately shut down by Reed's overwhelming power. This was size and strength beating intelligence and experience, physicality trumping psychology, brute force demonstrating that sometimes the elaborate game plan means nothing when your opponent can simply overpower you. The finish came at the 18-minute mark when Reed hit his signature sequence, a massive powerbomb followed immediately by a tsunami splash that drove all 330 pounds into Punk's already damaged ribs. The impact looked legitimately dangerous, Punk's body folding from the force in ways that suggested this went beyond selling and into actual trauma. Reed hooked both legs for the cover, pressing his weight down to make kicking out physically impossible. 1, 2, 3. The bell rang. Reed's music hit. The referee raised his hand and presented him with the World Heavyweight Championship. And the arena absolutely exploded because nobody, absolutely nobody, predicted that Bronson Reed would walk into this match and completely dominate CM Punk to become champion. But the finish wasn't just about Reed winning. It was about what happened to CM Punk afterward that elevated this from surprising upset to genuinely concerning moment. Punk wasn't moving after the final tsunami splash. Medical personnel rushed to the ring immediately, checking on him with urgency that suggested legitimate injury rather than selling for storyline. The cameras caught Punk's face showing genuine distress, possibly struggling to breathe, his ribs potentially fractured from the accumulated punishment Reed had delivered. WWE made the decision to stretcher Punk out, a rare occurrence reserved for situations where genuine injury requires proper medical transport. The visual of CM Punk, who'd been positioning himself as WWE's smartest and most dangerous performer, being wheeled out on a stretcher while Bronson Reed celebrated with the World Heavyweight Championship created powerful storytelling about the dangers of underestimating opponents and the reality that physical dominance can overcome any amount of strategic planning. The immediate aftermath was absolute chaos. Social media exploded with reactions ranging from shock to excitement to concern about Punk's condition. Backstage reports suggested Punk was being evaluated for possible rib injuries, with the severity yet to be determined. And wrestling media immediately began speculating about whether this was always the plan or whether Punk's injury forced an audible that resulted in Reed winning the championship under circumstances that might not have been the original creative direction. Paul Heyman appeared during a backstage segment, his expression mixing satisfaction and concern in ways that revealed his complicated relationship with both competitors. CM Punk has spent weeks positioning himself as the mastermind behind WWE's chaos, suggesting he's been orchestrating controversial finishes and manipulating outcomes to serve his agenda. Tonight, Punk learned what I've been trying to tell everyone: you can't control chaos. You can't orchestrate outcomes when variables like Bronson Reed exist, physical specimens who don't care about your plans or your intelligence or your manipulation. Sometimes, the universe simply decides that someone else's time has come, and all the strategic planning in the world can't prevent that reality from manifesting. Bronson Reed is World Heavyweight Champion because he was better than CM Punk tonight. Not smarter. Not more experienced. Just bigger, stronger, and more capable of inflicting the kind of damage that wins championships. The statement positioned Reed's victory as legitimate rather than fluke, suggesting that Punk's loss wasn't about injury or bad luck, but about being physically overmatched by a superior opponent. Whether that narrative holds up or whether this is revealed as temporary setback in Punk's larger story remains to be seen. Bron Breakker, the former champion who wasn't present for this match due to medical necessity, appeared via pre-recorded video with expression mixing relief and concern. I don't know if I should be grateful or terrified that I'm not champion anymore. Grateful because the target's off my back, because every controversial finish and question decision is now Bronson's problem instead of mine. Terrified because Reed just did to CM Punk what I couldn't do, what most people can't do. Completely dominate him and make him look vulnerable. At Royal Rumble, when 30 people enter that ring, Bronson Reed is the guy everyone should be most afraid of. Because he just proved that size and power still matter regardless of how much WWE wants to pretend that smaller guys can overcome any physical disadvantage through heart and determination. The assessment was accurate and troubling for everyone entering the Royal Rumble who lacks Reed's physical advantages. If the World Heavyweight Champion just dominated one of WWE's most dangerous performers through pure physicality, what happens when he faces multiple opponents in the chaos of the Rumble match? Roman Reigns' reaction, captured by backstage cameras, showed grudging respect mixed with strategic calculation. Bronson Reed just did what I respect, took what he wanted through dominance rather than manipulation. No controversial finish, no outside interference, just superior ability winning a championship. That's how it's supposed to work, and Reed earned that title tonight regardless of how unexpected his victory was. But Bronson should understand that being champion makes you a target, and at Royal Rumble, everyone in that ring, including me, will be trying to eliminate him and take what he just won. Size and power matter, but so does experience and strategic thinking, and when the chaos starts, we'll see if Reed's physical dominance is enough to overcome 30 competitors who all want what he has. Dean Ambrose, still building toward his personal war with Roman at Royal Rumble, couldn't resist weighing in. CM Punk spent weeks acting like he was pulling strings and orchestrating chaos, and tonight he got crushed by reality. Bronson Reed didn't care about Punk's manipulations or his strategic planning. Reed just hit him really hard repeatedly until Punk couldn't continue. That's a lesson everyone in WWE needs to learn. Eventually, you have to actually fight, and all the psychology and planning in the world can't save you if your opponent is simply tougher than you are. Royal Rumble features 30 people who all think they're the smartest, the toughest, the most deserving. Reed just proved that sometimes the biggest and strongest actually is the best, and everyone else needs to account for that reality. The philosophical debate about whether Reed's physical dominance represents good or bad storytelling was already raging across wrestling media. Critics argued that WWE sacrificed CM Punk's credibility, one of their most valuable assets, to create shock value that won't have long-term benefits because Reed hasn't been properly built up as an unstoppable monster. They pointed out that casual fans who tuned in expecting Punk to win and reclaim his position would be confused by Reed's sudden elevation. That championship changes should feel earned through months of storytelling rather than happening spontaneously for surprise factor. Defenders argued that this exact unpredictability is what makes modern WWE compelling, that the era of predictable outcomes where only carefully protected stars win championships is boring. That Reed's victory creates genuine uncertainty about Royal Rumble because if CM Punk can be beaten clean by Bronson Reed, then literally anyone can beat anyone and predictions are meaningless. They celebrated the upset as refreshing storytelling that respects the audience's intelligence by not telegraphing outcomes months in advance. Both perspectives have merit, and the truth probably lies in whether WWE can effectively build on this momentum or whether Reed's championship reign becomes forgotten footnote in larger Roman, Dean, Punk storylines. As Raw went off the air with the image of Bronson Reed holding the World Heavyweight Championship high while medical personnel attended to CM Punk in the backstage area, with social media absolutely melting down over the unexpected outcome, with every wrestler on the roster suddenly recalculating their Royal Rumble strategies to account for the massive Australian monster who just became champion, one thing became absolutely certain. WWE's championship landscape is complete chaos. Drew McIntyre holds the undisputed championship after controversial victory over Cody Rhodes. Bronson Reed just won the World Heavyweight Championship by destroying CM Punk. Both title reigns are unpredictable and potentially unstable heading into Royal Rumble, where 30 people will be fighting for WrestleMania positioning and where literally anything could happen because the normal rules have been completely abandoned. December 30th, 2025. The night Bronson Reed became World Heavyweight Champion through pure physical dominance. The night CM Punk learned that being the smartest person in the room means nothing when your opponent can simply overpower you. The night WWE's already chaotic road to Royal Rumble became even more unpredictable. Reed is champion. Punk is injured. Royal Rumble is 4 weeks away. And absolutely nobody knows what happens next because WWE has created a landscape where predictions are impossible and the only certainty is more chaos. Welcome to the Bronson Reed era. Size matters. Power matters. And all the strategic planning and manipulation in the world can't save you from 330 pounds of Australian destruction falling from the sky directly onto your ribs. The madness continues. The chaos escalates. And we're all just holding on trying to make sense of storytelling that's abandoned traditional structures in favor of pure unpredictability. Royal Rumble 2025 is going to be absolute pandemonium. And after what we just witnessed, That's exactly what WWE wants.